And welcome to the Reverie Esports number. Which one is this? 60,
68?
65. 65.
65. Oh, I was a few over. I apologize.
It's alright. Speaking of, I actually kind of forgot to change the Twitch title, so let me fix that real quick.
Oh, I don't know if I can forgive you, Effect. That's a capital mistake right there. Somebody get this man off the casting bench.
Somebody's gonna have
I'll
to
do it
hang me.
solo. I'll do it solo, I promise. I can handle it. Put me in, coach. No, I would never want to go anywhere without you, Effect.
I appreciate that.
You're
And
gonna have to
bans are coming up
you're
pretty
gonna have to
quickly.
file a restraining order.
Open
All
number
right. Anyway, fans,
65.
picks, those things. We got some of them.
For those of you who don't know, awesome. Will already changing it for us.
Oh,
The first match of the evening is going to be NYU Squad V2 facing off against Supernova Gemini, who's on the red side.
yeah. I
Wow.
know that New York University does have a esports team. I'm assuming these guys are associated with it. The V2 could mean that they're like a secondary team, and I know that Supernova Gemini is one of the secondary or even tertiary teams for Supernova. So these are both organizations with some amount of clout, at least in the amateur scene.
Some unusual bands coming out of Supernova Gemini.
Yeah,
Really targeting a more tank and bruiser lineup there.
yeah. Whereas on the side of NYU, they focused a good bit on the mid lane and then taken out one of the still pretty close to being top tier junglers in the form of Finley. You don't see her quite as often, but she's still one of the more aggressive junglers that you see now and again.
A really skilled Nidalee in the
Graves
jungle is so dangerous.
Graves is still on the table as far as like an aggressive jungle style goes. So if either of these junglers are into that sort of thing, we may see a Graves come out. One of the few aggressive junglers left that hasn't been sort of nerfed into the dirt. Riot's been progressively stomping one after another one down to be more in line with the rest of the jungle base.
Smack them
Azir
down
being
one
the
at a
least
time.
receptive.
Azir. We have not seen an Azir since his last little bout of nerfs.
Yeah, he was really hit hard with the hammer.
Just
So,
patch after patch, I should say.
oh,
Oh my.
may have been this pick as we're back into the lobby here, guys. Give us just a few moments to figure out exactly what went wrong there. We did time down all the way to the last second on that pick, so it may have been that somebody disconnected while hovering over his ear, something like that.
Seems like it might have been a timing issue or something went wrong.
All right, we should
But
be able to get back in really shortly. There we go. Sorry about that.
it's okay. It's not a reverie tournament if something doesn't go wrong in somewhere.
Yeah. As far as potential issues, I'd say that that's rather minor. About 30 seconds without being able to look at the. Oh no, I'm getting a phone call from League City. Okay, that's appropriate. I'm getting a phone call from League City, Texas. Let's put that to the side. Put that on mute.
I better make sure mine's on mute. I wouldn't want a phone call from League City.
I thought that was a joke at first. Oh man, there's apparently actually a League City in Texas, and they're calling me while I'm in the middle of trying to do some League of Legends shoutcasting. Anyways, we got some very different picks here. We've got the Elise, a first pick jungle. With literally out of the picture, I expected some jungle emphasis, and then following up with even more emphasis on the jungle with a Sin picked into it.
Okay, so that's not unusual because at least I've seen a Brachi here before, and he has a pretty strong Lee Sin. It's one of his more favored picks. So even though it's not the jungler we see too frequently anymore, but as a skilled player, he can be really powerful. And Nami and Ezreal being picked really quickly.
Yeah, Worlds is going on right now for those of you who live under a rock, and the Worlds meta is always something that's different than like the rest of the season meta has been. A lot of teams will like save things for when Worlds comes around, and like new and fresh ideas will come out in the first week, and then we'll even progress further into later weeks of the tournament. So Nami is one of those sort of newish ideas. I mean, people have been toying with her. It's been a meta of range supports in season 6 for a long time now, and Nami, even though we've been in a meta of range supports, never really saw a lot of play. Every now and then you'd see a support who just really liked the champ pick her. But over the last few days of games, we've seen so much more Nami, and Ezreal's come back to some extent as well. So I think there might be just some influence from that in our match here tonight.
And speaking of influence, we're seeing an Orianna for Raptor. You don't see Orianna too frequently. Like she always makes an appearance during Worlds and on and off during the seasons, and we've seen her a couple times here at Reverie, but
Mm-hmm.
not the most frequent mid lane pick.
Yeah, ever since some other mid laners popped up that could kind of just do her job, but a little better, or do like 90% of her job, but do that 90% much better. Things like Victor actually was Victor's rework is one of the big reasons why Orianna got hedged out of the meta. He's just a more reliable control mage in a lot of ways and less complicated to execute. But Yorick, the new Yorick rework, is going to be on the table here as NYU picked that up in their last round of picks.
So I actually know nothing about the New York, so I'm actually really looking forward to this, seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, I know very little about it as well. The ulti is really weird. He's got like now on his E, he's got like a mini Jarvan ult, except it places a piece of destructible terrain as well. It's so strange, but Yorick has always been strange. Nothing but that. So I think the rework really is true to that sort of core spirit of the champion, I guess. And we're back into a lobby. This is not
Um,
necessarily ideal.
Apparently, one of the players' clients is broken. They need to restart. So once
Oh,
completely missed the message that once they finish their picks, they'll restart.
no, that's not ideal. Well, we still got a Yorick pick, so we can talk about that a little bit. Um, New York is honestly just as strange as the old Yorick was. That's the best way I can put it. There's some very odd usages for a lot of the things that he can do. Like the Maiden of the Mist is such a they very evidently wanted to emphasize the sort of minion based gameplay that Yorick had always been about, but like take that to a new level. And so it sort of feels like a more versatile Tibbers. Like a Tibbers that is less about the initial cast and more about the having it around and dealing damage and having a minion that's on that sort of power level, basically.
Alrighty, so they're gonna do well. Obviously, the bands don't need to be the same. They just went through all the top six there. Lots of A's. Poor Aatrox getting banned. He doesn't deserve that.
Well, he only gets banned whenever there's joke bans because people are just rushing through picks and bans. So at least it doesn't happen too terribly often.
That's
He
true
he at
enough.
least he's at least first in the alphabetical order, if never anywhere else.
Alrighty,
He can come first in something.
so it's gonna be a York versus a Jace. Very interesting. Unless I'm not reading what? No, they're not. They're not in. They're not in order. That's why everything was kind of weird for me.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly we're not in LCS order as it looks like the junglers in the mid and the mid laners on the top. But that's all right. We can
We
we
can
can
work
see.
around it. It's not a huge issue. It's just, and we sing a Ziggs as well.
Yeah, Ziggs is less of a surprise, I think, over the last few weeks, over the last few months, really. Basically a
He's been
month, it
popping
feels
up
like.
more frequently ever since they did their little mage rework.
Yeah, and he's been popping up pretty darn frequently in compositions that are capable of sieging as well. Because that new executability on Satchel Charge, pardon me, is really powerful and often underestimated. The ability to just straight out execute a turret once it gets lower than a certain percentage of health, because often teams will, if they make a mistake and they misrotate and the turret loses a bunch of health, they'll still be able to hold on to it for a while and deny that gold by like sort of camping around that turret and keeping the enemy from taking it down. But Ziggs can just deny that by pressing W twice, and it's really strong. But we do have a few minutes of spectator delay to get through before we can see any of that in action.
Absolutely. So on that note, we're going to go to a small, tiny commercial break, and once we are in game, we will be right back. So don't go anywhere, guys. And that was a nice, quick loading time. And we're in. Take
Oh
this
no.
opportunity to readjust everybody.
Oh, there we go. All right. You said a nice quick loading time, and I still wasn't seeing the Summoner's Rift, so I got really worried for a moment. But I'm able to see things, so that is an improvement on my casting ability. I've done it blind before, but we don't want to talk about that. That was dark times.
Dark times indeed. We're seeing an invade, actually.
Yes, that we are from NYU. We'll see whether or not it's a successful one, or even one that they fully realize as they scatter away to the four winds after being spotted out by a ward.
A nice, quick reaction on Supernova to not get. Ooh, Brachi getting a nice aggressive ward there to see where they're going.
And Kaze is going to spot out the Karma, trying to sneak her way into his jungle to get some vision, and actually going to base just to, I guess, heal back that missing 100 hit points or so. It's before like the 115 mark or so, so he's got time to base and get back to lane perfectly fine, or get back to the Krug camp if that's what he intends on taking down. Aqua Blue is going to be starting at the blue side potentially here, and if he does, he will be spotted out. We see some team colors being flown.
Getting that world support out.
Yeah, it supports the teams too, from what I recall. For each icon that's bought for a specific team, some money actually goes towards paying that team and funding for them and such, which is really neat. I like that. I like that players can show their support.
This is a very neat idea, but must suck to be one of the not popular teams.
Well, yeah, popularity does indeed pay in a industry based around entertainment.
That's absolutely
Pretty
true.
useful asset to have. That is going to be NYU grabbing the Krugs to start off the lane here. Get a little bit of an XP lead, presumably for Malala, because it does only apply to one of the duo lane now.
I'm seeing
actually killed them.
Ji Young trying to get some damage up, but took a ton of damage in return. Forced to use a pot there.
Yeah, and Kez and Malala basically have the sustain advantage in the lane already, simply by virtue of being a Nami versus a Karma. Nami has heals and Karma has shields, so it's a reactive damage lessening factor versus a damage prevention factor, and it's always nicer to be reactive than preventative.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to heal someone than it is to prevent the damage from happening in the first place. Unless that damage is just not going to be hit, which is not quite the same thing.
But in a lane matchup like this one, there's going to be a lot of damage flying around. The lane matchup I'm most interested in, though, is the top lane, because we've got the new Yorick up there, and there's so many interesting mechanics with this guy's kit. Last Rites, his Q, whenever you land a last hit with it, as you see him do right there, it's the empowered auto attack, it leaves a grave behind. I may have to get back to my explanation in a moment, as Abrachi is going aggressive here into Aqua Blue. Aqua Blue's going to turn around into Raptors, please, but the cleanse gets him to relative safety and gets him to a first blood. You know, on top lane with a little bit of a duel between the New York and the old Jace, and Malala going aggressive with Kaze on the bottom side is going to tank and ignite and have to dash away. Breaks vision into the bush, but there's a ward immediately. The bottom flashes away from the piercing right, but Cortien's still in to pick up the kill, and now with the benefit of shield from Ji Young, he's actually turning this around and forcing the flash out of Kaze.
And that is going to be a nice. That's a nice little jump up in gold for Supernova Gemini. Grabbing first blood and another kill. They were so close to killing Cortien's.
Oh no, Kaze, you should not have stuck around in this lane. Now it's a 3v1. He's got no summoners left. The Q lands, and that is his death sealed pretty quickly.
An unfortunate choice for him. And you get actually get to notice, but Raptor now has blue buff because he got first blood.
Yeah.
So that's
going to be super beneficial to him in helping to shut down Malphase, who has one of the best names ever. Maulface.
Maulface. Is it because he mauls faces, or was his face mauled?
The world may never know. We'd have to ask him directly. But back to talking about the new Yorick, which I'm all hyped about. When he leaves these graves behind, now there's two ways that they generate. One is just passively when minions around him die. There's not a very high chance that they do, but it's sort of like a soul generation for Thresh. Oh. Sometimes when a minion dies, it generates a grave. A lot of minions go unburied. It's a horrible tragedy. But he can purposely bury them and place a grave by using Last Rites, which is his Q, which empowers his next auto attack with a bit of damage and, of course, costs a bit of mana. Now, once he has 3, or I think it might be 4 graves around him, he's able to then, instead of Last Rites, cast Awakening, which takes all those graves and summons little tiny, what are they called?
Ghouls?
Gravelings, ghouls, whatever. I think it's Mistwalkers is the name that they technically go by in the game, but they're these tiny little zombie creatures, and they just rush at the enemy. He doesn't really have any fine control over them. They rush at the enemy. They sometimes can leap at the enemy as well under certain circumstances, and they do some decent damage.
It's definitely a leap away from his previous kit other than the pets.
Oh yeah, no, he's still very much minion and I guess pet based, but there's right, it does love their mini games, and there's more. It's less like just click, have thing happen, binary situation. You know, you've got to play around these stacking mini games and play around how many graves you have, and there's a lot more depth to it, and so I like that quite a bit more. And they've still managed to keep the sort of spirit of his kit as being this very strange character. And there we go. He's dashing in. Well, he's not dashing in. The Gravelings are, and he's got a slow there with his W. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, however, we do have the tether landing from Jiyoung, but on the top side, Ednog with a low health pool remaining is now the benefit of a 2v2 as Abrachi shows up. Aqua Blue nearly bursts Abrachi down with that venomous bite. Sprinkles loses his jungler. He's flashing onto Abrachi, though he takes a little bit of revenge. He may fall himself. In the meantime, though, Ednog gets himself a kill back. That's 5-1 now for Supernova.
Camera had a heart attack trying to decide where it wanted to go.
Directed camera sometimes does have issues following all the action. But I can't blame it. This match has been incredibly action-packed as Malala once again gets tethered by that snare. Malala out of mana now, just has to flee from this fight, but there's a teleport coming in. Blue Pillar of Light signaling the arrival of Yorick. Oh no. Oh no! Malphite's getting pulled back there by the shockwave, but he's more than happy to keep the fight going. You know, he thought he wanted to run away from this, but Raptor, he showed him, no, you should probably stay and kill me. There's 300 gold in it for you, man.
Raptor's like, fine, you want me to stay? I'll stay. And stay he did.
I'll take the kill, why not?
So Raptor not quite misjudging how much damage Maulface can do. Maulface mauling faces.
Yeah, and Malphite actually doing quite well for himself now. He's pulled ahead in CS. He's putting together the pieces of what appear to be a Rod of Ages. Very strong choice on like a siege-focused champion like Ziggs. Gives you that sustain. Doesn't work quite the same way anymore. It's not as much lane sustain because you don't just get the level up health back. You get the health on spending mana, but Ziggs does like to spend his mana. So, and there's the Leaping Ghouls jumping on Ednog. So Yorick's W, I actually forget the name of the ability, but he tosses out, I think it's like a soul flare, something like that. And it's a cone that fires off after a projectile. And if the cone lands onto an opponent, it will slow them down and it will mark them. Now, whenever he moves towards an enemy that's marked, he moves faster, and whenever one of his ghouls moves towards an enemy that's marked, as you saw right there, they move faster and they'll leap at them like they do right then because they were close enough they didn't have to. But there's the flash away from Ednog, and this is the sort of lane pressure that the New Yorick has.
Ednog definitely wanted to try to play safe here, but lots of aggression coming out of Sprinkles.
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 Oh, the names we get here. They're so good. Abrachi's pretty good too, as he's actually going to leap into the cocoon. Aqua Blue's getting bullied out of his jungle though. Abrachi's been playing very aggressively on this Lee Sin.
Yeah, one of those characters. Play it really well. Lee Sin can be super dangerous.
Yeah, it's been that way for a long time. There's the shockwave on the Maulface. Jiyoung has roamed first to the top, now to the mid. He's just going on a full tour of the Summoner's Rift, picking himself up a kill on the way. As meanwhile, Aqua Blue's getting kicked under his turret. The burn is burning, and Abrachi is getting a kill.
And that is a nice little pickup for Abrachi.
Milala's going to get chunked down here. Cortianz is just bypassing Chasm away into a kill. Ednog really teleports on in for a quick and easy to the skies.
Oh man.
Now Cortianz is going to pick himself up a killing spree. That's the 9th of the match, and we will get first brick in the mid lane.
That was a nice teleport by Eggnog. That's going to put Supernova Genmai even further ahead. They have firm control of the game right now.
Yeah, and Abrachi's continual aggressive jungle play shows us why we saw so much emphasis on the jungle in the picks and bans. I mean, we saw a good few bans and early picks of junglers on both teams. As Abrachi continues to counter jungle, continues to bully Aqua Blue back, and just take huge advantage of his pick here in the form of the Lee Sin. Obviously very potent in that guy's hands.
Curious. Well, I wonder what Eggnog's building here. He has the armor pen, but...
The Leaping Ghouls go in. And, I mean, Sprinkles is kind of the only lane that's going well for them here. Yorick is a laning powerhouse, but he's not really going to be, like, a bastion behind which the team can stand. And it's going to be really difficult. Malphite is doing fine as well, I suppose. He's got a CS lead. He's got a kill up. It's really just the jungle in the bottom lane where NYU is just losing blood right now. They're bleeding out fast.
Yeah, Cortians already has his Ghost Blade, so he is extremely dangerous right now.
Mm-hmm. And with the backup of the early, like, massive damage that a Karma can put out, like, even without damage items, just Ji Young has so much base damage right now. Like, there is no safety left in that lane for Kez and Malala. As soon as a summoner is burned, if like heal or flash is forced out in the trade, they just can't stick around anymore.
And we're seeing that in Malala's build path. He's trying to build a little more health, trying to get that phage built, it looks like.
Oh, Sprinkles traps Eggnog there. We'll see if Aqua Blue can capitalize on that. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, we have a bit of action as well. Here comes Abrachi to the top side to save his top laner. Sprinkles is going to flash away. A tower shot leaves him low on health, and Aqua Blue, all alone and with nowhere to go, repels down only to find some death. Meanwhile, we return to the bottom lane, where Core TNZ is continuing to bully back Malala, who did have to burn that heal, so now they have to play super safe. Let's see whether or not they can actually commit to that super safe playstyle. Oh man, Kez is playing way too far up, and he's going to pay for that. Core TNZ is on a rampage, but there's a teleport to the bottom side to maybe able to turn something around out of this. Something good. There's the flash forward for the shutdown. Malala happy to get that auto. Sprinkles, though, kind of unhappy that his teleport wasn't really necessary.
That's a nice little pickup for Malala. He needs all the gold he can get right now. He is pretty far behind. The poor Kez getting picked up there before the whole thing happened.
I mean, perhaps I undervalue the teleport from Sprinkles there. He didn't get an assist on the board. He didn't get any damage in or anything. But the fact that he was teleporting in meant that Ji Young and Core TNZ couldn't turn around and fight Malala, because they would both die if they did, even if they got the kill. So his teleport there, like, allowed enough free pressure for Malala to go that aggressive and flash forward for the kill. It still probably feels pretty bad to not get any gold or any credit out for it, but I can recognize Sprinkles did some work there.
And good enough for him. He made it back in top lane in time to get gold.
Yeah, he's going to pick up the farm. He's going to keep on going in that lane, where he's doing just fine.
He has that Ninja Tappy working on a Sunfire. Mm-hmm. Getting him lots of durability and health.
Yeah, and just ability to stand up against his Jace. That's kind of annoying. He wasn't in range to tag Jace with the W, the soul marker. God, I need to learn these names a little better, but you never see Yorick's nowadays, even after the rework. So the minions just kind of stood around, not knowing where to go, but now they definitely do. And there's the ulti from Sprinkles. This is the Maiden. He's coming in. She also is not actually directly controlled by Sprinkles, so it's really hard for him to control where it's going to go, but Eggnog does go down in the end. I don't think the Maiden has got a single tick for Death Laser in. Oh, man. And this is why you don't see Yorick's. The kit is certainly strong, but it's hard to use, because the AI for the minions just isn't there sometimes.
A little bit of an inconsistency.
Yeah. Because the Maiden was always just too far away to be able to target the Jace. And the turret down on the bottom side means that Core TNZ can go very aggressive, but Malala's turning it back around, and with Ziggs running to the bottom side, Ji Young may be regretting his aggressive AD carries decisions. Oh, he gets some health back off the Mantra W, but it won't be enough to survive Malphite.
Malphite once again mulling faces. He has that row completed. He's working on some more AP.
Yeah, and he looks to be scaling into the later game. Similar plan to Raptor. Ziggs and Orianna actually play rather similarly, both old school, just sort of wave cleary mages. Orianna maybe a little better in team fights.
Yeah, Ziggs has that range advantage, but I think it's pretty undisputed that Orianna would have a slightly better team fight.
Mm-hmm. In terms of utility, at least, like shields and CC are strong, but I'd say Malphite would probably put out a little bit more damage if he can consistently land bouncing bombs, and that's really all that Ziggs is about. Those bouncing bombs, he can connect 2 or 3 during a fight. He's so very efficient in terms of damage. That was some really good farming, gotta say, from Sprinkles. He actually made use of like Sunfire Cape to get a few of those minions.
Definitely seems to know what he's doing. He's going on an Eggnog again, but here's Cortians and Ji Young.
He finds himself in a 3v1 as Ji Young and Cortians were swapping to the top side, and he did not expect a lick of it.
And that is certainly going to be that top turret probably going down, because here's Abrachi as well.
Yeah, and they just read the playstyle that Sprinkles was continually going for in the top lane. Just let Eggnog push in, come back to the lane, and then go for a brawl with him. And they waited in the bush. They waited until they knew he would go after Eggnog, and then just absolutely punished him. And they're going to punish him even further, taking away all safety in this lane, getting not only the outer, but also the inner secondary turret.
We see that Eggnog has went ahead and rotated to bottom side.
Aqua Blue was actually basic in that bush. I thought maybe they'd go for some sort of engagement here into Eggnog, but that dominance topside is going to lead into a Rift Herald take. That's his real name. That's what he asks his friends to call him.
Harold.
No, I'm not Mr. Harold. I'm just Harold. Harold. My parents are very creative. Decided to call me Rift. Strange first name.
They're hoping he would be someone who riffs.
Okay, we'll go with that. In this imaginary backstory that we're building up for one of the neutral bosses on the Summoner's Rift, we'll go with that as part of his backstory. I think that's canon now. I mean, it's as good as some of the other lore they've put together for League of Legends. Just saying. Please don't hate me, but just saying. Oh god, the lore team at points is amazing, and at points is just absurd. Anyways, that aside, Malphite and Abrachi find each other in the jungle. Abrachi more than happy to tank a few small explosions for the price of some vision. But he goes into that cube, he's gonna be in real trouble. Meanwhile, Sprinkle's in some trouble of his own. That is a fully destructible piece of terrain right there, so the double tap, Cortians is able to take it down. And now there's the laser on the Cortians, some good damage. The lady is actually a lot more cooperative in this fight. Cortians may go down, the lady is still alive. Doesn't need Yorick to actually direct her, but the lifesteal for Cortians is enough. Oh, here's the Ziggs bomb.
Oh, it's so close.
They threw everything in the kitchen sink at this guy, and he just wouldn't fall.
That's gotta feel bad.
Oh, man. Oh, and now Malphite towards the top side has to flash away from the Orion ult that would have caught him out.
Poor NYU, and they Sprinkle's so close to soloing it, and then the Ziggs bomb barely missing, and the Ezreal ultimate barely missing.
Yeah, and that is the new Yorick ulti, by the way. The names of these abilities are so poetic, and they keep escaping me. Eulogy of the Isles, which summons Maiden of the Mist. I was saying Lady of the Mist, it's Maiden of the Mist. She is not actually directable by Yorick. Well, sort of. She will attack someone who's marked by Yorick's W, or she will just attack the nearest enemy priority, and she prioritizes enemy champions over minions. And so she technically does not need Yorick to be alive to continue fighting, and that's why we nearly saw Cortianzi go down there after Sprinkles fell, but she just doesn't quite do enough damage by herself. One of the reasons why she's powerful is because actually whoever she's targeting, Yorick with his auto attacks does more damage to them. So she's partially a damage source herself and partially a buff for Yorick.
Reading some of the stats, she's got some decent stats too.
Yeah, she does some darn good damage. I think the main issue with Yorick's kit now in his rework is how unreliable the AI can be. You know, like, he has so much of his damage and so much of his ability to 1v1 someone packed into the Maiden of the Mist and into his little Gravelings. If they are stupid and don't go after the right target, or if Yorick doesn't have the ability to mark someone because it's on cooldown for a few moments, and he's in the middle of a team fight, and he can't, like, choose a new target by marking another person, it makes it just really hard for him to actually be useful during a team fight and appropriately focus the right person down. Which is why he's better sort of as a split pusher. No, the shockwave doesn't connect with the Sprinkles. He may get out of this alive, but Ji-Young is coming around from the side. Again, this lane is incredibly unsafe for Sprinkles, but they just don't want to keep the chase going. They knew they had taken so long. Ziggs and Elise were both on the way up top.
It did take them a pretty long time to get the Sprinkles there, right? Dog wanted to get aggressive there, but they'll all clear out all those minion waves with the ultimate.
Yeah, and Yorick is kind of difficult to catch. He has a decently long-range slow. He's rather tanky in the majority of the builds that he will go for with his new kit. And he can, of course, box someone in with his W. And not all champions can get out of that so easily. Of course, Lee Sin doesn't really care. He can go over the wall pretty easily. But somebody like Jian's Karma, something like that, if he can box them in appropriately, then they're not chasing him for a good few seconds, unless they can break the wall somehow.
And during that fight, he actually blocked off Raptor for a few minutes. It didn't catch him, but he had to walk around it. And that alone
Yeah.
is pretty significant.
So overall, I'd say that Yorick's kit is best designed to put him in a place where he's a very good split pusher, where he's able to just apply this sort of pressure where he basically gets free minions to push down lanes with, because as you can see, they don't actually follow him around. They'll run down the lane just like ZZ Rot minions do. He gets a ton of 1v1 potential with the Maiden of the Mist, and he's very, very tanky, so he's really hard to dislodge from that laning position. So that's why I really like how much advantage they took of being able to push him out of lane that one time and taking those 2 turrets, clearing top lane pretty much of all of its turrets, because it makes it really dangerous for Sprinkles to push this far up. He's still doing it, but at any point they can just kind of choose to go and gank Sprinkles and try and push him out of his lane. They're not doing it right now though, and Ednogs is feeling the pain because of it, as they're focusing much more on the bottom side here.
Trying really hard to steal that red buff, but NYU not letting it happen. And Ednog might be in a little trouble.
Yeah, Sprinkles is going to mark Ednog for not quite death, but a good amount of damage. And now the Maiden of the Mist is turning her attention to the turret. Got a little distracted there. Wants to keep going after Ednog, though. He boxes him in. That forces the flash from Ednog, and that's a summoner down. Sprinkles continues his dominance up here. I think the AI for Maiden of the Mist can best be like compared to sort of like a moving turret. You know? It'll target minions first, and then champions, and then Yorick can sort of override that by marking someone. But that is oh my god!
Oh, wow.
After Sprinkles teleports into the fight, that just stopped all momentum they had, but the momentum when he killed down.
It's unfortunate there was no one there to follow up on that 4-man ult.
And if we glance up topside, we can see that he's still shoving the lane in. Just got murdered by Ednog, but that's another thing I know I've spoken about it a lot. Raji's gonna leap over the wall and steal the dragon away! There's no walling in on Lee Sin, and now this is going to Supernova and terribly for NYU. Ednog is losing the back lines of this fight. He actually got danger blow on himself, but he's able to back out of there safely enough. And after he gets the kill, flashes in for another, and finds it. That's a double kill.
Supernova Genomite securing the lead even further than what they had. That's stealing a dragon and almost getting an ace.
Raptor lead is that fight as well. Sitting at 5 in front now, well deserved. Taking a turret for reasons. Yeah, you have a minion wave. I guess he didn't like that half of his health bar.
He's punishing it for something.
I'm really not sure. They still get the turret. There was nobody around to take advantage of it. It wasn't a big deal. It's just kind of perplexing. But I got to give MVP of this early game so far to Irachi. He may not have all the kills, but honestly, that's even a good thing. He has enough gold, enough kills under his belt to snowball the early game as Lee Sin, and the rest he wants to give to the rest of his team, because if this game goes long, Irachi is going to fall off, and he's already kind of planning for that. He's built an aura item. He's building tankiness, so he's going to be useful in the later game, or about as useful as a Lee Sin can be. And meanwhile, he's got an Orianna, a Lucian, and a Jace to scale the damage into the later game. So I think they're perfectly safe, even if they can't close it out in the next 2 minutes and stuff.
What is NYU going to do here? They're not as far behind as the score suggests. They're only about 5-6K, but that's still pretty significant.
And at this point in the game, that's rather significant as far as the margin goes. Because you got to look at it like the percentage of the total gold. And like 5 or 6K out of 40,000 gold is a good chunk. Whereas later on, once you got like 80,000 gold across a team, 5 or 6K is maybe as much. Oh, there's the 6 bomb though, and the chunk magic resistance from fighting Baron. It does quite a bit of damage. Aqua Blue is a little bit cut off in the rest of his team. A few lands from the Sin Irachi. It's actually not going to do any damage to Resonating Strike, because Aqua Blue repels that quite nicely. Malphite is going to be the only target of the Shockwave, but it's enough. Shut down on the other side for Ezreal as Ednog leaps his way into a stun. TNZ now backing away from Sprinkles, who's full health and looking for a brawl. He just can't close the distance. McMillan leaps over the wall right into a Lee Sin Q. Abrachi leaps away. The hero returns. He does this.
Even though that's actually no, that's good for NYU. They got 3. They stopped Baron from happening. They only lost 2 for it.
Yeah, that was overall good for NYU, but Abrachi just had a great play at the end there. That
Absolutely.
Q was on point. And the guy has been playing for great Lee Sin. And however much we say that Lee Sin like falls off in the later game, a good Lee Sin only falls off so much because there's still so many things you can do with this kit, particularly with Dragon's Rage. You can make some great plays happen, even if your damage isn't as overpowering as it is in the first 20 or 30 minutes of the game.
Now we see that Supernova has lots of vision control around Baron. They have those 3 pink wards, so one is dying to Kez here. And they're trying to push this wave out. And Abrachi taking care of that Maiden of the Mist. I almost said Lady of the Mist. That's not quite right.
Yeah, no, I take blame for that. That's what I was calling it for the first 15 minutes of the game before I took the time to actually look up the real name. Yeah, it is Maiden of the Mist, not Lady. She's not yet become a lady. Still a maiden. That's a very strange distinction to make for a ghost. Meanwhile, though, Baron, vision control, Supernova is moving as a unit down here. They've sent Ednog up top lane to deal with that minion wave, catch that gold, counter the work that Sprinkles has done. And then they're probably going to pull him back down, as his teleport is only about to come off cooldown now, so maybe they could actually leave him up there, farm it up a little bit, pretty safely. And continue this sort of jockeying for position around the Baron pit.
Well, we see those wards going back down again.
Interesting. Wards don't leave graves. Huh.
So
Sprinkles last hit that with his empowered Q with last rites. And it did not leave a grave behind. So
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Wards don't have souls. Poor things. Oh man, he's got an engagement here. Abrachi is looping in on the Sprinkles. Not exactly the target they want to start this fight off with, though. Big Bomb lands onto 3, Ezreal off onto 2.
Raptor getting that orb in position.
Oh, Abrachi goes in and out. Okay. Meanwhile, Ji Young is taking the brunt of the damage here in this fight. Ednog is split off from the rest of his team going around the corner here. Ziggs Bomb's coming his way. Could hurt. Could they connect? And that's just some damage and cooldowns traded back and forth. Ults for mostly NYU. So.
NYU's trying to be really careful here. They want to get a catch, but they also don't want to walk into Orion ultimates. Because those command shockwaves could be killer.
Not the target here. Yuumu's culling combo is popped. He's still speeding forward as well. Malphite leaps over the wall. There's a beautiful cocoon as Ednon turns the corner. He has to flash away. That's a summoner down for Jace now.
Oh, I was wondering how he cleansed, but it was actually Ji Young with that Mikhail's.
Yeah, so the Mikhail's is down and the flash is down for Jace, but they still need to go for this. They think they've got positioning here on the Baron. They've already got a few thousand hit points taken off the top of the health bar. Fortunate is going to get stunned up there. Sprinkles is at the front line. He's taking quite a bit of damage. Brachi's going dangerously low, and the Orianna ult only landing on Fiora's minions. Brachi in the back lines is looking for an opportunity to influence this fight once again with only a 200 hit points remaining, though. It's going to be difficult. Malala picks a kill off. Now Raptor is going to fall as well to Sprinkles, and the rest of the team is beating a hot retreat. And that's going to be a missed call on the Baron for Supernova.
They didn't get it quite burned out as fast as they wanted, and that's basically it's going to be NYU punishing them pretty hard. Though Brachi is moving in position for a Baron steal.
I think one of the things they've disrespected is the amount of area damage that NYU has to bring to bear to a Baron fight, particularly area magic damage. Really powerful against a Baron fighting team. Malala's alone over a wall, but he's going to catch Ji Young. He may go for the double here onto Ednog. Actually, Malphite will snag that one. Baron goes down as well. This is just disaster for NYU overall. There's the flash over the wall from Malphite. Wow, he was going aggressive for that kill.
Supernova Gentlemen not getting what they wanted. They're an almost ace onto them, and they lost Baron.
They are going to go grab a Volcanic Drake, I'm assuming, here. Yeah, that's next on the roster. And this is some real solid global control from a team that looked like it was pretty dark behind for the majority of the early game.
That puts them down to a...
Anything planned here. Whoa, Kez is left all alone! His team just went.
Poor Kez! He just got abandoned. Sacrificed to the Lee Sin gods.
They left him so fast. he was left high and dry, and fish is going through well.
I imagine there might be some apologies going on in Vent or
I would
TeamSpeak or what
hope.
they're using.
I would hope that they're apologizing for that. Oh, that's horrible. I don't know if anyone could have predicted Abrachi sticking around in the bush like that, but he just knew that Kezi's going to be left alone. The rest of the team is going to leave him to die.
Well, as they say, the blind man likes sushi.
And Effect, would you be able to play with volume settings, get my mic a little louder? People in chat are saying that I'm inaudible, despite my best attempts to shout very loud about video games.
Okay, let me see what I can do.
I can sort of raise the mic gain on my own end through Skype, but I don't think it would be nearly as effective as you fiddling with the settings on your end. Sprinkles is base checking into the wrong part of the jungle, but he's got quite a bit of health to work with here. TNZ has to dash over the wall, and Agalu is actually able to pass right through that wall, by the way. It doesn't work like a Jarvan ult. It doesn't actually block your teammates, just opposing team members. Abrachi leaps to the back line of a team fight that he thought was won. He gets shut down in the process. Now, Malphase is going to bring down Ji Young. Malala's on a killing spree off to the side of this fight, and suddenly, things are going just the wrong side up. Supernova. Maiden of the Mist does not care. Logs are right through the turret.
And let's see if that helps. Wow, I missed some things.
Yes, indeed. I was shouting about them, so hopefully you get a clear idea of what went on. But yeah, New York University, they picked a really good fight. Supernova kept fighting as if they were in the early game, like as if they were at the 20-minute mark when they had a huge lead and everything was definitively in their favor. And they're just not respecting what's happened in the last 15 minutes enough. The Baron, the Volcanic Drake, all the kills they've gotten. NYU is no longer behind. And they can't keep fighting them like they're behind.
NYU has complete firm control here. They're 3k gold ahead. They have 2 inhibitors down. They're stealing jungle camps. They're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I mean, when you when you don't respect the potential of the opposing team you're against, they can just come out of the woodwork and surprise you with some really, really nasty team fights. We've been seeing that at Worlds for a little while. Some of the wildcard teams are seeing it here. There's the Zig Bomb coming down. The Orianna ult lands under no one. Sprinkles barely gets tickled by that calling, and Malala is once again playing an incredibly aggressive Ezreal. Turret goes down, the Ezreal ult comes out, but I think it got flashed away from there from Core TNC, or healed through. Summoner burned either way. Sprinkles now in the front line of the team fight. Ednog flashes over the wall, but not before Malala had an auto attack in flight, and there's no flashing away from that. Sprinkles is going to drop a shovel on Abrachi's head and finish that kill off, but he trades his own life for it. Meanwhile, Malala, though, once again going aggressive on this Ezreal, gets shut down, a little too aggressive this time. But my god, that man has arcane shifted forwards more times than I can count.
He's definitely not afraid to say hi, nice and close.
Yeah. His Ezreal play, he plays Ezreal sort of like Lucian. And Core TNZ is playing Lucian sort of like Ezreal for a good part of this game. So just the latter half earlier on in laning phase, he definitely was playing a very, very aggressive Lucian. But now he's kind of had to play farther back to the sides of the team fight just because his team is falling to bits around him.
Super was doing their best to try and get all those minions killed. They barely defend their turrets.
And now, like, if they choose to make use of Sprinkle's potential as a split pusher on Yorick, there's just not going to be any way to stop them. Not with super minions pouring in from 2 other lanes. Honestly, this push for Vision is a good idea, but I think maybe even unnecessary from NYU right now, because they could just 4 or 5 man group in one lane, send Yorick to another, because Sprinkles has his teleport up, and just choke this game out. They don't need to pick any more fights. They don't need to go for any more vision-laced ambushes or anything like that.
What are they going to do now? Now we need to stop asking what NYU is going to do because they're behind. Now we need to see what Superdome is going to do because they're behind. The tables have turned.
And very swiftly as well. Oh, Malphase may be picked off here, but the Orianna ult not finding its mark.
Raptors just had no luck with those shockwaves. He had like 1 or 2 good ones earlier, but these last ones have just been not so good.
Yeah, and that's what makes or breaks an Orianna. It's the difference, I think, between the Orianna and the Ziggs playstyle. Like large, very impactful abilities versus lots of smaller ones. Sprinkle's is going to get the kill into Eggnog there. And that's the top lane inhibitor turret breaking to bits. The inhibitor soon to follow. And this is looking dire for Supernova Gemini.
Dire indeed. That's definitely one way to
Ooh.
put it.
Trap
Raptor.
tries to flash away, but there's the enhanced auto attack from Malphase. He's on a short fuse and he gets himself a kill. And the Nexus turrets are following Malala once again. Arcane shifts forwards, and for good reason, as Aqua Blue finishes off the kill.
And that
And
most
the
certainly
Nexus
is the
goes
game
down.
going to be ending. And there it is. So good game to NYU.
All
Good to
right.
try by Supernova, but a little bit of a throw there at that Baron pit just turned everything around.
And I think we've got another semifinals match either going on now or going to start very soon. We can investigate into that.
Let's take this opportunity to check the bracket. It looks like there's a good chance they've started, but let us double check.
I got a notification between games in my client that I have been invited to join the ranked team Ace Hobo 2 The Revenge. What?
What?
I know nothing about this, and it's just made my night.
Ace
But
Hobo 2 The Revenge. What's the first one titled?
I don't know. I was not involved in anything involving Ace Hobos, revenge or otherwise. I don't even know what that would be. Is that like a Air Force squad made up of homeless men?
Maybe.
I'm
Ace
very
Hobo The Beginning?
I'm very confused as to what this is about. Um, but that is a mystery for another day, as we do have another match potentially to look into.
It's unfortunately already started. I have to see if I'm already on someone's friends list. It's Apox Gaming versus Victorious League. I don't recall those names, but we'll see.
Yeah, another one rings a bell to me either. We do get a lot of new faces here pretty often. Such is the way of a weekly tournament. But in the meantime, I can maybe put up a little bit of music and give the people something to listen to other than my droning voice.
Indeed. And it looks like we'll be waiting for a while. I don't see any of these names on my friends list, so we'll have to wait. So give it some time, folks. We'll keep you updated. Check the chat, and once both these teams are out of their semifinal match and into the finals, we'll get started. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
If it's silent in dismay, it won't break this feeling down. If I conquer this my way, I'd devour, I'd surround. If it hurts you just a little, then it heals you when it's done. Disappointment is the anchor, resolution is the sun. If it's silent in dismay, it won't break this feeling down. If I conquered this my way, I'd devour, I'd surround. If it hurts you just a little, then it heals you when it's done. Disappointment is the anchor, resolution is the sun.
We're back! It took a while, but the other semifinal match has ended. For those of you just joining us, this is going to be Victorious League facing off against NYU Squad V2. And the bands are coming out pretty quickly.
Yeah, and pretty unconventionally. Though Zach has sort of become something of a jungler nowadays. You still don't see it too terribly often. And a Janna ban against, I'm assuming, Insect Kick, though really sometimes these players do like to throw us for a loop and go outside of LCS orders, so not sure exactly which player is going to which lane, as Born to be bot lane is in the top lane position of the pick order.
He's doing it to throw us off. It's a trap!
But yeah, when you're going into a weekly tournament like this one, or in the amateur scene, bans are usually best used for one of two things: either very targeted bans towards a specific player that you're afraid of if you've researched a specific player on the enemy team, or general meta bans. Usually you're not looking to ban so that you can open up a specific composition, or ban so that you can work around a specific strategy. It's just either targeted or meta. And in this case, I think given that we're seeing such strange bans come out of both teams, and a Rek'Sai ban against someone playing a player named Bebe Rek'Sai, I think we're going the targeted ban route. Will be a Braum first pick, though. An interesting choice to go with the first pick support. It doesn't show a lot of your hand at the very least.
There's certainly some vulnerabilities there, but it does keep the rest of the hand hidden, so they can kind of get a better idea what they want to do here. Those are very, very specific bands, so yeah, that has to be targeted. I mean, the Rek'Sai one's extremely obvious. There's not a lot to hide there.
And with a lot of junglers banned off the table, and a lot of junglers sort of having been nerfed or fallen out of the meta, Elise has made her way back to the top first string, I'd say. As has Olaf. This Olaf hover makes a lot of sense, especially for someone who maybe does like playing Rek'Sai. I'd say the playstyle, at least in terms of build path, is rather similar. You still go very tanky. You're still in the front line. You're able to stick to people and make engages happen. Hecarim, following that same line of thought, could be a good choice. There's a lot of open options here, as we are very early on in the draft. But what we've already locked in speaks to a potentially rather aggressive bottom lane and just a pretty standard jungle.
And there is the Olaf. So that could be jungle Olaf. It could be top lane Olaf. We don't see as much top lane Olaf now. We're seeing a lot more jungle Olaf lately.
I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing the jungle Olaf. His laning is not the best. Mana problems plague him, for sure.
Absolutely. He's a bully until he runs out of mana, and then he's just an angry Viking with axes.
And he's also very, very open to ganks in the long and vulnerable lane that is top lane, because while with ult he is impossible to lock down, he doesn't have any instant ability or anything like that. There's no way for him to flash or dodge away from something, especially if he goes with the ghost choice, which it looks like he's going here. So jungle Olaf is what we're likely to be seeing as we get the very powerful and just pretty darn standard duo lane of Braum and Lucian, the passives synergizing together beautifully there. And we'll see what the answer is now for the opposition.
A Yasuo lock-in. That's interesting. I wonder if that's going to be a top lane bruiser Yasuo.
It's definitely interesting with a jungler that doesn't have a knockup. Often you'll see a Yasuo locked in alongside a jungler that has some sort of displacement ability. Lee Sin is often one of the most one of the favorites for that role because of Dragon's Rage and how potent that is and how instant it is as well. It's basically impossible to dodge once Lee Sin gets next to you. But without that knockup from the jungler, ganks are going to be a little bit more difficult wherever they choose to throw the Yasuo. The lane you have to stand up in.
And now we're seeing, it looks like a Fiora and a Syndra hover. So that's going to be a Fiora top lane, a Syndra middle.
Yeah, it would offer quite a bit of damage. They've got a great core, I think. Olaf, Braum, and Lucian. Olaf might need a little bit of support, some way to get him to rush into a fight, but honestly, he can sort of do that himself with Ghost and continual slows from Undertow. Olaf is not nearly as powerful, I think, alongside with not being alongside something like a Lulu support or an Orianna or some method of buffing him to get him closer to the enemy team, but they're just going to lock in a ton of damage alongside him.
And it looks like we're going to see a possible return to the Yorick.
Yeah. They did a great job with that. Yorick was very difficult for them to contest in the top side, but it will be a Zyra, and with Thresh already locked in, that's a Zyra solo lane, almost certainly mid.
Yeah, but
Ooh,
it's gonna
that mid
be.
lane matchup is going to be explosive. They're both incredibly squishy, incredibly high damage output champions.
I don't think it has been so long since I've seen a Zyra. Even during, I believe she was updated during the Mage update, but I still never saw her.
Oh yeah. The main updates are just her passive is a lot more useful now. It's no longer the Death Blossom or whatever it was called, where she would fire off a true damage shot after death. Instead, she just kind of gets more seeds around her wherever she goes, which gives her more vision, sort of, though the seeds that are spawned by her passive give far less vision than the seeds that she manually places, as well as giving her just a little bit more utility in lane and the ability to have more plants down more often, which is rather nice.
Alrighty, that's gonna. This top one's gonna be interesting. It's two characters with swords hitting each other.
Yes, indeed. That is correct. Um, the French versus the Japanese.
But
Battle
there
of
are
the
no
Swordsman.
French people and Japanese people and
Oh,
wherever League of Legends is
okay.
at.
Sure, you got me. Technically, what would that be? Fiora. I don't even know Fiora's nationality within the world.
I don't either,
Uh,
actually. I
Tiesto,
know
I'm assuming, is Ionian
he is
because that
Ionian.
would
I
be
do
Asian
remember that.
Ionian.
But Fiora's a mystery to me.
Is she just
Part of,
Demacia?
I think she's
I
part
think
of
she's just Demacia.
Demacia. I bet.
Yeah, but like nobody else in Demacia has a French accent. She just has it because it's funny. Oh, right, it's lore. It's the best. Well, I guess you guys are gonna have a few minutes to deliberate over the nationalities of the champions on your own time because we've got some spectator delay to get through before we get into the game.
Absolutely. So on that note, we're once again going to jump to a small commercial break. As soon as we're in game, we'll be back.
I rise just like a phoenix, born from the ashes. I take care of my own. Torn down where assassin. You can't suffocate my spirit.
We're back. We're in game. This is the finals. And let me take this opportunity to adjust some of these.
Oh, yes. We have the players out of order again. Born to be bot lane is indeed born to be bot lane, though his name is not actually born to be bot lane. I'm putting a word there that isn't. It's born to bot lane. Pardon me.
There's enough Bs it could fit.
Yeah, that's true. He's playing Braum as well. Braum born to bot lane. Makes a lot of sense. And that is a Yasuo top and a Zyra mid. This is some of the squishiest composition I've seen in a long, long while. I seriously think those are two of the lowest, if not the two lowest health targets in the game to start out with, excluding maybe Sona.
Oh, Malal might be in a little trouble here.
Yeah, the fourth hit lands. Concussive blows did proc, but he was already leaping over the wall as it happened.
But that's still going to put Kez and Malal at a pretty large disadvantage that lane. They don't have the skills they would want at level 1, opting for the escape
That's true,
routes.
yeah. Rocket Jump isn't great at level 1, but
And
better
Lantern.
than having to burn a summoner or something like that.
Absolutely, that's true enough. But still, that's unfortunate. Lantern taken, jump taken.
All right, we've hit that critical 1 minute 22 seconds mark, so the Nick of Time is not going to be able to regen that health. Malface is actually going to be able to as he gets back to base, and he'll be back in time, I think, for like... He might miss a minion or two, like a melee minion or two, which can snowball into a much larger lead in the lane, but does not necessarily snowball that far. As I'm actually going to swap over there to check. A blue minion did just perish, so that's one minion down, and Malface has made it to mid lane. So one minion's worth of XP lost could give the opening to get an early level 2 and then go aggressive, especially against an opponent as squishy as a Zyra, but I doubt it's going to mean all that much.
Just have to see if they can abuse that opportunity, but Nick of Time taking a little damage there.
Yeah, and as you say, he's already starting off the lane a little bit low because he didn't base after the trade, so actually that arguably makes up for the XP. Reprise doing a great job here at dueling Cherish. He managed to hit that level 2, I think mid-duel there. Knew he was going to be getting it. He took